Some stories don't have heroes or villains. Some stories only have two broken people who found each other at the worst possible time. This is one of those stories. My name is Ethan, and I'm about to tell you something I've never told anyone. I was 24 years old when my father died. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. One morning he was drinking coffee at the kitchen table, laughing at something on his phone. By evening, he was gone. Just like that. The house that used to feel full, the sound of his voice, the smell of his cologne, the way he always left the TV too loud, all of it disappeared overnight. And I was left in that house with her, Maya, my stepmother. Now before you assume anything, let me paint you the real picture. Maya wasn't some dramatic villain. She wasn't a woman who had plotted or schemed. She was just a woman, a real one, complicated, quiet, and absolutely stunning in a way she never seemed to notice herself. She had come into our lives 6 years earlier, when I was 18. My father had met her at a work conference. She was a graphic designer, freelance, creative in the way that made her see beauty in things others ignored. She had dark hair that she always wore loose, warm brown eyes, and this habit of tucking her feet under her when she sat on the couch that somehow made her look both younger and wiser at the same time. I had never seen her as a mother. She never tried to be one. She was more like a presence. Calm, steady, someone who made the house feel warmer without ever demanding attention for it. My father loved her deeply, and she loved him back. That was the part that made everything harder, because after he died, I watched her fall apart in silence. She didn't cry in front of me. She was too proud for that. But I would hear her at night sometimes, soft sounds from behind her closed bedroom door, the kind of crying that someone does when they think no one can hear them. And something inside me would break every single time. The first month after the funeral was mechanical. We moved around each other like furniture. Polite, careful, saying the right things. Asterisk, do you want coffee? Asterisk, asterisk, the lawyer called again. Asterisk, asterisk, I'll take care of the mail. Asterisk, we were two people performing the routine of a household while quietly drowning inside it. I had taken a leave from my job to handle the estate. Maya had stopped taking freelance projects. Neither of us talked about it, but the truth was the same for both of us. We just weren't ready to step back into the world yet. Then one night, everything shifted. It was a Thursday. I remember because there was a thunderstorm, the kind that rattles the windows and makes the whole house feel smaller. I came downstairs at midnight because I couldn't sleep, and I found Maya sitting on the kitchen floor. Not a chair, the floor. Her back was against the cabinet, her knees pulled to her chest, a half-empty glass of wine beside her. She was staring at nothing. I stood at the doorway for a moment, unsure. Then she looked up and saw me. And instead of composing herself the way she always did, she just didn't. Her eyes were red. Her hair was messy. And for the first time since I'd known her, she looked completely unguarded. I don't know what to do with his coffee mug, she said. I blinked. Asterisk what? Asterisk, asterisk, his mug. The one he used every morning. I keep washing it and putting it back in the cabinet. But I don't know why. He's not coming back for it. Asterisk, I walked over and sat down on the floor beside her. Not on a chair. The floor. And we sat there together in the dark kitchen, listening to the rain, not saying anything for a long time. Then she laughed, soft, broken, almost surprised by herself. This is ridiculous, she said. Asterisk, I'm sitting on the kitchen floor having a crisis about a coffee mug. Asterisk, it's not ridiculous, I told her. Asterisk, it's grief. It picks weird things to attach to. Asterisk, she looked at me then. Really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. Asterisk, when did you get so wise? Asterisk, she asked quietly. I had a good teacher, I said. Asterisk, he just died. Asterisk, her breath caught. And then she leaned her head against my shoulder. And I let her. After that night, something between us loosened. We started actually talking. Not about logistics or the estate or what to do with my father's things, but real talking. Late nights at the kitchen table, takeout containers between us, conversations that started at 9 p.m. and somehow ended at 2 in the morning. I learned things about Maya I'd never known in 6 years of living under the same roof. That she had grown up moving between cities because of her mother's work, and she had never really had a place that felt like home until she married my father. That she secretly wanted to paint, but had convinced herself she wasn't good enough. That she was terrified of being alone, not in a needy way, but in a deep, quiet way that she'd been carrying for years. And she learned things about me. that I had never really dealt with my own mother leaving when I was 12, that I had always felt like I was performing competence rather than actually feeling it. But the reason I'd chosen a career in finance was because my father respected it, not because I loved it. We were excavating each other, and somewhere in those conversations, without either of us naming it, the atmosphere between us changed. I started noticing things I had no business noticing. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking. The way she laughed, sudden and unguarded, like she always surprised herself with it. The way she'd reach across the table to emphasize a point and her fingers would brush my hand and neither of us would move away immediately. I told myself it was grief, that we were both just desperate for human connection in an empty house. I told myself that every day. I almost believed it. It was a Saturday afternoon, 6 weeks after the funeral. Maya had finally decided to start going through my father's study, donating some things, boxing others. She'd asked me to help, and I agreed. We worked mostly in silence, the kind that's comfortable rather than awkward. Old books, old files, framed photographs. Then she found it. A photo album. Old, leather-bound, the kind you don't see anymore. She sat down on the floor of the study and opened it. I sat beside her, and we went through it page by page. Photos of my father when he was young, younger than I was now, full of life and stupidly handsome with that proud smile he never lost. There were photos of me as a kid, gap-toothed, scrawny, always squinting at the camera. Maya laughed softly at one of them. Asterisk, you were such a serious little boy. Asterisk, I was suspicious of cameras, I said. Asterisk, you're still suspicious of cameras. Asterisk, asterisk, they never show you the truth. Asterisk, she turned to look at me then, and we were close, closer than I'd realized, both of us leaning over the album. Close enough that I could see the faint trace of an old scar above her eyebrow. Close enough to notice the exact color of her eyes weren't just brown. They were layered, amber near the center, darker at the edges. Asterisk, what does the truth look like? Asterisk, she asked. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. And I don't know what happened in that moment, whether it was 6 weeks of grief and late nights and honest conversation, or whether it had been building long before that. But I said something I hadn't planned to say. Asterisk, right now it looks like you. Asterisk, the room went very still. Maya's breath changed, just slightly. Her eyes searched mine, and I could see the exact moment she understood what I meant, what I was really saying. She should have laughed it off. She should have stood up, changed the subject, reminded me who we were to each other. She didn't. She looked at me for a long, aching moment, and then she quietly closed the photo album. Ethan, she said. Just my name. Nothing else. But the way she said it, it wasn't a warning. It sounded like a question. I left the study. I walked out, went to my room, and sat on the edge of my bed staring at the wall for a long time. What was I doing? This was my father's wife, the woman he had loved, the woman who had sat beside his hospital bed and held his hand when there was still hope, and then held it again when there wasn't. I was his son, his only son, and I was sitting here with feelings for her that I had absolutely no right to have. The guilt was immediate and suffocating. It landed on my chest like a physical weight. I thought about my father, his laugh, the way he used to clap me on the shoulder when he was proud of me, the way he had looked at Maya like she was something rare and precious. He trusted me. He trusted both of us. I decided that night to start pulling back, to put space between us, to let the house go back to being silent and mechanical because silent and mechanical was safe. I told myself the feelings would fade if I stopped feeding them. I avoided her for 3 days, made excuses, ate early, stayed in my room late, kept conversations short. On the 4th day, she knocked on my bedroom door. I opened it. She was standing in the hallway in a simple gray dress, her hair down, and she looked like she hadn't been sleeping well either. You're avoiding me, she said simply. Asterisk, I'm not. Asterisk, asterisk, Ethan. Asterisk, I leaned against the door frame and looked at the floor. I'm just trying to do the right thing, I said quietly. I know, she said. Asterisk, so am I. Asterisk, there was a long silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. Asterisk, I've been angry at myself for 3 days. Not because of what you said, but because of how it made me feel when you said it. Asterisk, I looked up. Her eyes were steady, honest in that unguarded way she'd been ever since the night on the kitchen floor. I'm not saying it's right, she continued. Asterisk, I'm not saying I know what this is, but I'm also not going to pretend that something isn't happening here, because I think we've both had enough of pretending in our lives. Asterisk, I didn't say anything for a long moment. Asterisk, he was my father, Maya. Asterisk, I know, she whispered. Asterisk, and he was my husband. And I loved him. Those two things don't change. Asterisk, she paused. Asterisk, but he's gone, Ethan. And we're still here. Asterisk, the hallway felt very small. Asterisk, what are you asking me? Asterisk, I said. She shook her head slowly. Asterisk, I don't know yet. I just didn't want us to keep pretending we don't feel what we feel. Asterisk, and then she walked away. And I stood in that doorway for a long time, feeling the ground shift beneath everything I thought I knew. The next few weeks were the strangest of my life. We existed in a kind of suspended space, honest with each other in a way we'd never been, and yet holding back from crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. We still had our late-night talks. We still sat across from each other at that kitchen table. But now there was a charged awareness in everything. Every glance, every accidental touch, every moment of silence that went half a second too long. One night we were watching an old film she loved. She had fallen asleep on the other end of the couch, and at some point in the night she'd shifted, and when I woke up from a light sleep, I found her head resting near my shoulder, her breathing soft and slow. I didn't move. I sat there in the dark, looking at her. This woman who was brave and lonely and beautiful and completely off limits. And I made a decision. I couldn't do this. Not because the feelings weren't real. They were real. More real than anything I'd felt in years. But because some things matter more than feelings. Because my father's memory deserved more than this. Because Maya deserved more than a complicated, guilt-ridden love affair in a grief-soaked house. She deserved a clean start. And so did I. In the morning, I sat her down and told her I was going to move out. She didn't argue. She just looked at me with those layered amber-brown eyes and nodded slowly, like she'd been expecting it. Asterisk, will you be okay? Asterisk, I asked. I'll figure it out, she said. Asterisk, I always do. Asterisk, Maya, don't, she said softly. Asterisk, don't apologize. You're doing the right thing. Asterisk, I moved out 2 weeks later. 1 year later, I still think about her. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But I think about my father more. The way he loved, the way he gave, the kind of man he was. I've started asking myself whether the choices I make are ones he'd be proud of. That question doesn't always have a comfortable answer. Maya and I still talk, occasionally. Short messages. Holidays. She sent me a photo recently, a painting she'd done. Her first. A landscape with warm light in it. It was beautiful. I wrote back, asterisk, you were always good enough. Asterisk, she replied with just one line. Asterisk, so were you. Asterisk, some stories don't have a neat ending. Some lines, once you come close to crossing them, leave a mark even when you step back. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some of the most important things we ever do are the things we choose not to do.